Hello and welcome to IASPrimers. My name is Shubhashish Singh Rehal and you're watching a comprehensive analysis on the effectiveness of India's parliament. Now, talking about the effectiveness, there has been a concern that the parliament's effectiveness has been declining. And when I say declining, I'm pretty sure what would have come to your mind is a thought that the visuals that you have seen from the media channels that walkout is taking place, disruptions are taking place, whatever. But there is lots more to the subject of effectiveness. And to know that, we really need to know what are the key functions of the parliament, because then only we can say the effectiveness is declining. Now, the parliament, it is seen as an expression of democracy, likewise India's democracy. And this expression is indirect. It's an indirect democracy that we live in. We as citizens send our representatives to the parliament. And what do they do in the parliament? Imagine the first time elections take place, what do? They form a government. They decide who will form the government. So let's say BJP gets majority, they form the BJP government. So that was one task. The other task is to hold the government accountable. So we have a responsible government, so the government is held accountable. And they also have a say in policy making and many other issues that affect the society. And then moving further, one more important task is lawmaking, that is the legislative function. So they make the laws for the society. Now when we see the television, we see the MPs in the floor of the house, and there are two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Lok means people, Rajya means states, so representative of the states. So we see the members on the floor of the house, but this thing functions only on an average for 67 to 70 days a year. So something keeps running in the background, and that is very, very important. These are committees. And Parliament has several committees, several classifications of committees. So one such classification is known as Department Related Standing Committee. As the name goes, standing committee means permanent. So department related means every government has a department. So let's say there is a department defense, health, finance, so many other departments, ministries, whatever. So for individual of these individual entities, there is a particular committee. And this committee has a representation of corresponding MPs in the parliament. So some percentage gets elected. And they ask the government questions on their functioning of that particular ministry. And they also talk about, about the budgetary support that has to be given, that is also going through via the committees. So somehow the people that we sent in the parliament, they in every way they have some sort of say in the governance matters, even if they are not part of the government. And they play a role in policy making and also holding the government accountable at even the minutest level. Beyond department committees, there is also committees on the subject matter of finances. So exactly known as financial standing committees. There are three committees, you can write down the name in the comment section, but the most important one is Public Accounts Committee. And what it primarily does is, the government has certain expenditures and revenue, this report is prepared by the CAG. So this report is discussed and questions are asked from the government. So various bureaucrats or various important functionaries, they are asked questions as to why you did this particular thing. Don't you think you wasted the public money? Some difficult questions are asked. In fact, many of these scams could have been avoided if this parliamentary Public Accounts Committee functioned well. In fact, the earlier, Mr. Vajpayee is credited for avoiding many severe scams. So these were the functioning of the parliament. Now moving forward to the effectiveness, that is declining effectiveness primarily. So one such is the quite optical thing visually that we see is the disruptions and the delays that take place. So we know, parliamentarians not following the due procedure, they are staging walkouts. So bills and many other activities like question hour are not taking place because disruption has taken place. The MP who wanted to ask difficult question to the government is not able to ask. So disruptions and delays. And sometimes this disruption and delays also affects the making of laws. So parliamentary functions, particularly lawmaking, is affected. So legislative business is affected, and there is, during the time of Manmohan Singh, UPA 2, UPA 1, there was a huge pendency of bills. Now we see a phase where there is this thing known as steamrolling of bills. Huge number of bills are being passed without any discussions and deliberations. So this is again from one extreme we have moved to the other extreme. So lack of discussions and deliberations, and again this undermines the very principle of democracy. That is, the people that we send make laws. What is really happening is that government through its bureaucracy is writing down laws. This law is going into the, let's say BJP party has brute majority, they are passing the bill, moving on to the Rajya Sabha and done, tuck. So this is a problematic situation. And moving further, when I say the legislative function, moving further, there is a concern that the executive is also making laws. How's that? Delegated legislations. Now, not every subject matter is discussed and deliberated in the legislative process. There are so many things. For example, I'll give you one example. Have you heard about the recent IT rules? Some controversy was going on about regulation of social media, IT rules. So IT rules is created by whom? It's framed by the government. It's a set of rules. That means it is a law. And the law making is the task of the legislature, parliamentarians. So ideally these IT rules should go to the parliament or a particular committee and then vote it. But that never happens. So this is one example of executive overreach. Now here itself, I just want to say add one more thing. When the bills are passed without deliberation, discussions do not take place, that means the viewpoint of the other party, and there are so many other parties in a country because of diversity, it's not just BJP, Congress and so. There are so many other groups. There are groups that representative of the tribal problems, of the farmer problems. So their viewpoint is also not discussed and deliberated. In fact, even when the bill is in the draft stage, it goes to the public or the relevant stakeholders for their opinion. So that is also one of the key tasks of the parliament. Then moving further, the concerns with the issues relating to the committees. Committees are like the backbone, they are the backbone of the parliament, because they keep functioning even when the parliament is not there. I mean the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha is not functioning, they are functioning in a way. They are functioning, and they provide the political parties or the MPs great insights about various issues. They help form consensus, and because they are related, their task is related to specific committees or departments like defense, etc. So they are expected to have certain expertise. But what we see really is that these committee members do not have the required expertise or the competence, and it is quite easy to see. On paper, it seems they should have these benefits, but in reality, think about it. When we elect our representatives, they do not have the competence. They do not know about the financial terms. Maybe they are from that industry, then that's fine. But most of them are not. So when they go, they are developing expertise, and by the time they have developed expertise, most of these committees have a tenure of 1 year. They are moved to the other committee. So they lack expertise, and therefore when expertise is not there, discussions, deliberations, that all gets compromised. Then again, one more issue over here is the private members bill. The people who are not part of the government or who are not ministers, they are known as private members. So they constitute the bulk of the parliamentarians. So most of the public bills are getting discussed and deliberated, but the private members' bills, forget about them being passed as a law, they are not even being discussed. So this is a serious shortcoming of the parliaments, almost all of the parliaments that have been there. And then the most severe one is the declining image of the parliament. So parliament's image, with the issue of the criminalization of the politics and various other issues, we do not see the parliamentarians as people who are for the cause of the people. Even though we send a representative to the parliament, somehow we feel there is a nexus of corruption. So we see them in a negative light. And common people do not get the feeling or confidence that it is for their purpose that they are going to solve when they enter the parliament. So they feel disassociated with the functioning of the parliament. So the very essence of parliamentary functioning is participation. That participation from the common people is not seen. And most importantly, parliament is as strong as its members. Right? Whatever we do, it's a platform. So with the weakened opposition, at the present moment we have a weakened opposition. So therefore, we see that parliament, somebody is able to bulldoze the functioning of the parliament. So weakened opposition is a concern. And I would like to add just one more point over here. That is the issue of defection. Defection is a very serious problem and something that goes unnoticed. It's not noticed very well. Imagine a situation, let's say the GST bill had to be introduced. GST, the recent law. So let's say a BJP is the ruling party, so they introduced the GST amendment, GST bill. Certain BJP member does not like it. So he is not, even though he does not like it, he is not able to, he will have to vote on the GST subject because he belongs to BJP. His party would have told him, you have to vote. So if he doesn't vote, he will be expelled he will not be a member of the political party. So this is a serious shortcoming over here. And likewise for Congress, even the Congress MP likes the GST, he will still have to vote against it if his party says so. So this is a cause of concern. Now moving further, right, we have talked enough. Actually, there are a lot of points when I've given you about the declining effectiveness of India's parliament. Now we need to look at certain suggestions or recommendations that have been made to make the parliament more effective. So in this light, one of the issues over here is we need to have a spirit of continuous improvement. Let's call it as Kaizen. So continuous improvement, and that can be done by having a high level committee on parliamentary reforms. Maybe a senior members of all important parties, they can be members of this, right? So because they are senior members, they can have a consensus on the parliament, on their political parties, and therefore they can bring in reforms. So this was a recommendation that was made in the year 2004 by the report of the National Commission to review the working of the Constitution. Very, very important. And then the next issue that, the most important issue was the problem faced due to the disruptions and delays that are taking place. And somewhere it sees that the MPs are not following the correct behavior. So what can be done is, because of the disruption and the parliament is not functioning, right, lot of flaws is taking place, maybe there can be a monetary penalty where the people are not paid or some fine is imposed on them. That can be done. In fact, for this very purpose, for that enforcing a right code of conduct, several private members' bill were also introduced. So one such bill was disruption of proceedings of parliament, disentitlement of daily allowance to members, and termination of membership. So this bill was introduced in 2009. So it also talks about termination. Then one of the important tasks, one of the important instruments of the parliament is the question hour. So question hour, as the name goes, it's the first hour, and the MPs can ask questions to the government. So example, what is the viewpoint of the government on, let's say, the reforms in the rail sector, or what have they done? Likewise, questions can be asked. So very important issue. So we need to restore the sanctity of the question hour, very, very important. And then there is also an instrument to draw the attention of the government on a matter of public importance. Let's say the parliament had to do certain activities, certain tasks during the course of the day, but certain problem had taken place. Some incident has taken place which needs to be discussed right away. So that can be done under the instrument known as adjournment motion. But what is happening is that this adjournment motion is seen as a way of humiliating the government, and it is seen as a way of using it as a no confidence motion. So this undermines the very instrument. And lastly, one interesting innovative approach, for the improving the quality of laws that come into existence, we have legislative impact assessment can be introduced. That is, this inspired from something known as environment impact assessment or social impact assessment, SIA. So what is basically suggests is, before making the law, have a proper research and development, R&D. After making the law, assess as to what happened because of making of that law. Was it a good implementation? Was it a bad implementation? What were the protests? Whatever issues that have taken place post the enactment of the law. So legislative impact assessment is a very innovative approach that can be introduced in India's parliament and will improve the quality of lawmaking. So this was all about the issue of effectiveness of the parliament. So you're watching IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish Singh Rehal. So this is it. All the best for your preparation. Bye bye, take care, and all the best. And please do like, share and subscribe.